Lord, thank you for this day and this time and this fellowship, Lord, and thank you so much for this platform to be able to just spotlight our recovery community and the people who really put in the hard work and show up to make things happen, who believe in us, God. And we just ask that you bless this interview and that you take over so that your light will shine through it. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Welcome to Recovery Inspired Hope, and I am so excited here to have my very good friend Judge Auslander here. Thank you so much for coming and for being part of this interview and being part of our show. And so can I ask you, how long have you been a judge for?
I've been a judge in the state court now for 9 years, and before that I served for 9 years in the magistrate court. So I've been a judge for 18 years.
18 years, wow. And Auslander, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So the way that we met was we were at an Acceptance Recovery Center's diversity inclusion event.
That's correct.
And I was a speaker, and this young man was there. And the crazy thing, I'm very involved in the recovery community, and whenever I go to recovery events, I see you. And I'm like, this is interesting, because as a person who has been in the court system in front of judges before, I was kind of puzzled. Like, why does he keep showing up to our events? Is he watching somebody? Like, why is he here? He really supports and believes in recovery, and he is really for us, and that was baffling to me. So I really wanted to find out more about why you are so passionate and always show up faithfully and believe in recovery and support us.
Well, it's because, number one, you always invite me. So first, if I wasn't invited, I wouldn't be there. But the truth is that in the line of work that we all do, we see a lot of people who really struggle. And we've put a lot of time in to try to figure out how to come up with ways that people can be successful. And the one thing that I've seen that has just really amazed me is the work that goes on in the recovery community. But it's a selfless work. And the people that are actually doing the work aren't out there doing it for profit or for glamour. They're doing it because it's what their calling and their mission is. And when I come and watch the paths of people who have been at the lowest point, separated from their children, separated from their family, not working, and watch people like you and the others in the community kind of grab onto them and say, this is the way to make this work. Let me show you, let me help you, let me support you. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that? And so I think it helps me every time I go to something that you host or that anyone hosts to watch the success stories. And it helps me when I see the next person that's in that position to say, there is a pathway for that person to be successful. And to the small extent that I can be there and cheer them on, I want to be there and cheer them on.
Wow. That is just like so beautiful. Like, you really, like, I just want to tell you, you have no idea how much it means to us that you show up for us. It like that, just you being there, it means so much to us. So I really wanted to thank you for just being there. And I wanted to ask you, now you are, is it Clark County?
Yes, just Clark County.
Clark County, right. So there are some other counties who maybe aren't ones who show up or who know how to kind of like bridge that gap to be involved and to support, or maybe who have like are still stuck in the stigma or the bad idea of recovery. What would you say to people who maybe are like, well, what difference does it make if I show up or not?
And I have to start first with the way that some of us were trained. And when I went to school and I learned about the law. And I learned about the criminal law and the civil law, but I didn't learn about behavior change. I didn't learn about recovery. I didn't learn about substance use or mental health disorders. That was not part of my training. And so when I was released from school and started practice, I didn't really have any idea about how people really can change their life, and about the evidence behind it. So it was from people who taught me and showed me, people like you and people in this community that showed me what the true pathway was for me to understand that. So 18 years ago, you may not have seen me at all the same events because I wouldn't have recognized the value. So I think part of it is there has to be that educational process, because I think all of those people in the circuits want what is best for their community. They just might not recognize how to get there. And so it really probably falls on shoulders of me and the other folks who do understand it to educate them, but also for someone like you to actually reach out and say, can I just have a conversation with you privately and let me explain a little bit? Can I show you? Will you come with me one time? And I mean, once somebody's eyes are opened, I expect that they're going to be in alignment with what we all are.
Right. So, okay. So for our part, because we in the recovery community, we're always looking at what can we do better? What is our part? So you're saying that one thing we could do is to actually reach out to people in the court systems. And can you give me some examples of like who we would reach out to? Like not people, but like titles, like
Sure.
Judges, lawyers?
I would say always invite the judges, but especially the prosecutors.
Okay,
I think
I never thought about that.
the prosecutors need to understand. I mean, they are trained just like everyone else, and they do know, they want to know what is best for their community. And a lot of times the belief is if you will put someone in jail, then of course they don't want to go back. So they'll just come out and they'll be like, hey, I don't want to go back there. I'll do whatever's best for the community. But we know in reality that doesn't happen.
Right.
If they knew that there was a great treatment program or a great support or recovery network that they could connect a person with, and it'd be less likely that they would come back, I think they would be very interested in it. But the educational process is difficult sometimes because they have to change their way of thinking.
Right.
But when you have someone with lived experience who can say, I was in your court, I did this, you suggested jail, that was not what worked for me, let me show you what worked for me. And they might go, okay, well, if that worked for you, maybe it will work for the next person.
Right. So we need to kind of like share hope with them of like, hey, look, this is proof that recovery works. This is proof that recovery is possible because this is what it did in my life. And I can bring 10 other people with me that can tell you this is what it did in their lives too. Awesome. That's awesome. So, okay. So judges, prosecutors, anybody else that we...
And of course the defense attorneys. I mean, obviously defense attorneys are going to advocate for their clients, but if they don't know what the resources are out there or how to connect someone, sometimes defense attorneys are of the mindset, the best thing I can do is keep my person out of jail or keep my person on probation the shortest amount of time and get them out of the criminal justice system, which is true. That's a great goal.
Right.
But sometimes maybe the longer path of connecting them with a resource or actually having them accountable for a little bit longer where they can be supported might actually be better in the long run. But if they don't know what those resources are or know about people like you, then they may not even know that that's the best for their client. But they're required to give their client all of the options. I'll tell you one other thing that always makes an impression to me is when I have a case with an individual in front of me who's really struggling and someone from the recovery community who is invested in that person comes to court. Because a person taking the time to rearrange their schedule to come into the courtroom to say, I'm going to do my best to try to lead this person on the right path, that says a whole lot.
Really? Okay, so recovery advocates actually in the court going
Absolutely.
To individuals. Awesome. I have a new project coming up, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of work with Walton County Courts.
Excellent.
So I'm really excited. So I'm trying to kind of pick your brain about it. Like, how can I, represent the community, and how can I share this information, and who do I need to share it with? So that will be really helpful, because I would like nothing more than, all communities, all judicial systems to work like ours here in Athens and Clark County, because I mean, I talk to people all over the world as far as like recovery goes. And when I tell people how our city is, you know, and we work with the probation officers and we work with the police and we have the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse and we have, you know, you and all these other advocates and everything, they are blown away. They're like, what do you mean that they come to your events and they support recovery and they actually let you sit down and talk with them on, you know, a very personal level? They are just blown away, because in other places it's not like this. And I'm so proud of our county and our state for leading the way in recovery and just paving this new way, because I feel like this is the way that change is going to be made.
And I want to be clear, we're happy that the county gets the credit, but I will tell you that the true work came from the organizations within the county, the people that aren't seen. And when I started as a judge 18 years ago, and we ran into a person with, whether they were on meth or on cocaine, which we had a lot of back then, there were very, very few places that you could actually reach out and seek help. I mean, Freedom from Bondage was one that I remember from the very beginning that we could try to hook people up with, or Hope House. But really it was the 12-step community, and there weren't the resources, but there was a very intentional effort by those in long-term recovery to build up this base. And by building up the base and providing that opportunity, it then gave us places that we could try to refer people and connect them with. So it's not as much our county as the workers that are out there in this providing the hope.
Wow.
So really you should be proud of you and all of your colleagues, and you just happen to make it easier for us to make this happen.
Wow. That's that's amazing.
It's a different landscape now. One thing I talk about, especially and I got the tour today of the Divas beautiful headquarters here. I mean, this truly is a paradise here on Hawthorne. But what the community in Athens has done, just like the music industry has done for Athens, they made Athens a very attractive place. The people who've really looked at long-term recovery in Athens have made it glamorous. They've made it attractive. I know that there's a part of recovery for some that has to be very quiet and anonymous and you don't want to see it. But to me, where it really has taken off is those organizations and people like you that are out there saying, no, I'm in recovery and it is awesome and it's beautiful and please come join me. And I see people say, I want that. That's what I want. And there's a great place for the anonymous community, but if people don't see it and don't know that it's there, then they don't know that recovery is possible.
Right. I always say when I lost my anonymity, my chains of guilt and shame were broken and I became empowered to speak out. And, you know, I will tell you, for the first 2 years, I'll have 6 years in July. And for the first 2 years, I didn't want anyone to know I was in recovery. It wasn't until I got involved with the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse and saw all these people speaking out, and they really had me recognize, like, but Jamie, look at all the awesome stuff that you've done in recovery. Look at all these accomplishments you've made, and you've started your own business, and now you're, you know, a peer specialist with the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse. Who would have ever thought that me, of all people, you know, I mean, I was the girl, you know, on the corner, you know, with, you know, syringes in her bra, you know what I mean? And who would have ever thought that I would be where I am today? So I had to really break those chains of guilt and shame and, you know, stomp out that stigma in my own mind and say, I am proud of the things that I've went through. And a lot of people wouldn't have been able to go through those things, but with the support of the recovery community, like you were saying, those people who are so intentional on sharing hope and who held my hand and who encouraged me every day in the anonymous places and in the places that nobody sees, is why I'm able to be, you know, who I am today. So That is amazing. Well, thank you so much for everything that you have shared with us and for all the tips so that we know how to move forward in this movement, because, you know, we all have to work together as a team. And, you know, we all have the same goal and we have the heart and the passion for it. So I'm really excited about what's going to be happening here. And thank you so much for visiting my workplace, Deep Wind Freedom Center. So glad that you enjoyed it. And thank you for being on my show on Recovery Inspired Hope.
Appreciate you having me. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Make sure you subscribe to Jamie Tall on YouTube. Click the little notification bell so that you will know every time we have a great new release. And we will see you next time. Bye.